Here's a brand new book called Foodville. You know this author and journalist Timothy Taylor is his name, but not a foodie.
Well, you know, sort of.
How do you define this? We have a food-obsessed culture here in Vancouver. How do you define the notion of foodie?
Well, for a long time I said I wasn't because I associated foodies with this kind of frantic search for the new thing. And I kind of have a very comfortable way of eating, and I know the things that I like, and I don't worry too much about food fashion. But let's be honest, I've structured holidays around finding poulet breasts, so yeah, guilty. I'm a foodie.
Well, we've become this culture that has just this appetite for the culinary experience, the blogging that goes on now, the food porn that exists through social media. Why is it? Why is there that appetite for this unique experience?
Well, the why is a huge question, but it's crucial to recognize that it's like a 15-year thing. It's a 10-year thing. 15 years ago, Vancouverites weren't eating this way. We were just barely discovering that you could have fun and that you could use food as this whole way of expressing yourself in consumer markets, which is basically what food is now. So what the change has been is that food has become a real huge consumer phenomenon, which means all of the things we associate with consumer phenomenons now happen in food, which is to say fashion and trends, and things are in and out, and people try to be, to have the latest and the best and to sort of know the most,
Well, over the course of 62 pages, you kind of document the trends, how things have changed, and you've got some photos to take us back. So yeah. Take us back to the retro dinner of the way things were back in the day.
Well, I did this dinner as part of a magazine assignment, and I took menus from Vancouver Archives, restaurants in the 60s and 70s, and we cooked it. This is just a picture of the roof at the Hotel Vancouver, and you can just sort of see how I guess the approach to dining was different back then. Here the guys are all in ties, and the women are dressed up, and the tablecloth is white, and the chairs are plush, and there's a band playing in the background. So the going out experience was that on that level. And this is one of the dishes we served, which I just gave a picture because it's a classic example of something that would not be served now, because these are prawns in Canadian Club whiskey sauce, which is, I mean, Canadian Club is probably not going to be on menus anytime soon, but it was fantastic. It really tasted good, and people at the dinner party really liked it.
And one of the interesting things, if you look at what's happening now, Restaurant of the Year, Farmer's Apprentice with the Vancouver Magazine. I know you talk about this in your book as well. It's interesting when you go to a restaurant because you have these fancy ingredients, but you don't necessarily know how your meal is going to be prepared, so there's the element of surprise.
Well, I think that's a big part of it now, the culinary values of the day. I don't think you walk into any restaurant in Vancouver today that is sort of participating in that high end, and they're not doing three things. They're trying to innovate, so they're trying to be surprising, they're trying to have bold flavors that will also sometimes surprise you, and then they're using local ingredients. And those three, that's like the trio of values that I think is pretty hard to find restaurants that don't espouse those now.
One of the greatest things about Vancouver culture is the diversity we have for the culinary adventures, but you've been around the globe, and Spain was a big adventure for you a few years back.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't actually start as a foodie adventure, but like I guess all holidays I take, I end up sort of eating my way from the beginning to the end. And so Spain, yeah, a friend from university and I walked across from the French border all the way across to Santiago de Compostela. And these pictures are actually from a meal at the end. So we were really hungry by this point, but having said that, this was a spectacular meal. Taverna do Bispo in Santiago de Compostela, and this is sort of the typical bar food of that part of Spain, and it's stellar stuff.
I'm getting hungry looking at this stuff.
It's amazing,
right,
isn't it? It's amazing.
Well, your book has great insights into experiencing culinary adventures of your own. What's the #1 thing you look for when you're approaching a brand new restaurant, if it's going to be worth your while?
A lack of pretension. That's really, really crucial for me. I don't like to have the attention drawn to the fact that, oh, here we are, and this is new, and I might be seen here and stuff. I'd much rather go to a place where people are quite unconcerned about what they're doing, and I also respond very much to restaurants that have been doing things a certain way and are comfortable in that pattern over time. So I like a lot of older restaurants in Vancouver, actually.
All right, great insights right there, Timothy. Here's the book, Foodville. You can pick it up, Amazon.ca to pick this up, right?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Print or ebook.
Like this. Non-vela, too. A great way for startups and getting published.